Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mountain Talk. Today in episode 3, we will be discussing dating in Denver. This has been a highly requested episode, so we're super excited to dive into all the juicy issues. I am joined by two special guests, Sophie Register and Pete Thibault. I'll go ahead and let them give a quick introduction on who they are. Go ahead, Sophie.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. We're excited to be here today. And as you mentioned, I'm Sophie Register. I went to college in Colorado Springs and moved away for a little while and moved back to Denver about 5 months ago and have a background as a relationship coach. And so very excited to talk about it today.
Nice. My name is Peter Thibault. I'm from Minnesota. I moved to Denver about a year ago. Now coming up on that. I work in advertising and I do lots of fun outdoor activities in my free time. My expertise comes into I've just been on a lot of dates and have had a lot of failed relationships, so I've learned a lot.
Don't you make a lot of TikToks as well in the dating world? Aren't you kind of TikTok famous, man?
I do make TikToks related to dating and relationships and jokes about mental health and stuff like that. I have a bit of a following, and people seem to find me entertaining, so I keep that up on the side.
Check him out if you're on the video version. We'll go ahead and put some of his TikToks on the screen for you. Go ahead and check him out. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We'll start with you, Sophie. What is your thoughts on dating in Denver in general? Like, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. In my time that I've been back, I do hear a lot of complaints, but I think coming from the DC dating scene, it's a lot kind of easier. People have more in common out here. There's more activities and fun things you can do while dating so that it's not like, oh, I've got to put everything else on hold so I can go on a date. I can still go on a hike or go climbing or go to a cooking class or something like that. So I've kind of liked it.
So you think it's easier. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Pete?
Yeah, it's definitely different. Coming from Minnesota, the Midwest, dating is a lot more serious right off the bat when it comes to things, and people very much jump into relationships right away and kind of get that moving. It seems like that's just kind of the way things go out there. Versus out here, it's a lot more laid back. People are looking for a wide variety of different things compared to back home, and it was definitely an adjustment for me, learning how to communicate like what you're looking for, and because usually I was used to people looking for relationships, but things have become a lot different out here.
Yeah, because I think isn't Denver known as like the worst place to date in the country, or it's at least 100% top 5? Isn't that like a known fact?
It has been ranked. It has been called Menver. I've seen it. I've heard it from a lot of different people. There was a period of time where I went out multiple weekends in a row and I'd run into a group of girls, and without a fail, they would all mention Menver and how dating in Denver is the absolute worst. It is definitely ranked up there for like the worst city to find love in.
See, but doesn't Menver mean like there's way more guys than girls? Yeah. Like I looked that up today and it was like 49% were females and then 51% were guys. It's not a big difference, but...
It's not, but I think most metropolitan areas are primarily female. And so as a girl dating out here,
Sure, much higher percentage. Okay.
Yeah, the odds are
your odds are pretty good, right?
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty nice. From my experience, what people complain about is they call it Peter Pan syndrome. A lot of the guys who move out here are running from their previous situations and think the mountains will solve everything.
The mountains are calling.
The mountains are calling.
They must go.
And so none of them want to take responsibility or really be upfront about what they want. And it has been a big bummer for a lot of girls, it turns out.
Yeah, I think that's just with a high transplant area as well. Most people are, escaping in a way from their old life and starting something new. And a lot of people, when they come to a new city, I feel like don't want to just hop right into a relationship. I don't know if that's kind of how you felt when you got out here. Did you feel the same way where you didn't really want to get into anything serious and you just wanted to kind of explore your new life?
Yeah, well, for sure. I remember like when I got here, the first thing I was like, oh, I'm not getting into a relationship. I want to do my own thing. And it was kind of partly because I wanted to explore on my own and kind of find my way. And then like my other thing was I really wanted to find a friend group. And I realized if I were to jump into a relationship right away, I would have for sure latched on to whatever friend group was a part of that relationship. And if things go south, all of a sudden I might be here for a year or two, and then boom, my friend group might be gone. And so that was like the big drive for me, was I really wanted to make sure I was established myself first before I were to do anything like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what you and I were talking about before, that Mountain Kids has been so great, I think, because when I moved out here, it was the exact same thing, trying to be very intentional about, I could date and have fun, but I didn't want to be in a relationship until I'd figured out who I was. And especially with that community piece, when you're scared of losing your community, you can't be as selective, like, oh, does this person fulfill me? Do they make me a better version of myself? And so, I think it's important to have that established.
I think that's just part of the reason it makes it so tough is because everyone's just wanting to establish themselves before actually hopping into things. So it makes dating a little tougher for sure.
Yeah. I went on a few dates when I first got out here. I think it was like month 2 or 3. And I remember specifically on those dates, I would say, I was like, oh, I've only been here for 2 months. And I could just immediately see like the girl just like check out, just check out and pull back, being like, all right, I don't want to talk to this guy anymore. And I was like, okay. Noted.
Which is fair.
Yeah, and now being on the other side of it is like, I get it. It's like, yeah, I don't want to be the person showing a brand new person around a brand new city, because who knows if they'll be here. They could not like it after a couple months and just be gone.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I feel like so many people have kind of timelines for when they're going to leave Denver. It's like, okay, I'll do this for a year or 2, and then I'll go back to my real life. And they don't consider their time out here as something where they're going to grow a relationship. And so, I think as someone who does plan on living out here for the foreseeable future, when a guy says like, oh, I'm going to go home in a year or 2, it's like, okay, I'm out. Like, yeah, I'm good.
That's a good point. Like half the people I've talked to in Mountain Kids aren't sure they're even staying in Denver. It's a lot of times just a transit city where people are figuring out what they want or where they want to go. And they always sometimes go back to home because they like home better.
Yeah, I was the exact same way. I came out here and I was like, oh, I'll be here for a couple of years, then we'll move back home. I told my dad that, and then one day it just kind of clicked where I was like, I don't think I'm going back. And I told my dad that. I was like, he goes, when are you coming back? And I was like, I couldn't give you an answer to that because I don't know if I am.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so let's go ahead and go into, so on our Instagram, MTNKDS, that's our Instagram handle, we put out a poll to ask, what is everyone's biggest red or green flags when it comes to dating in Denver? So let's go ahead and just read out some of these, and you guys can guess, do you think it's a red flag or a green flag? And do you agree? So one of them is when they ask for your Snapchat instead of your number.
That's a definite red flag.
It's been, I wouldn't call it an essential red flag from a guy's standpoint, because coming out here, I took a break from dating, and then I started dating again. I'd meet a girl at a bar, and the first thing they asked for me was my Snapchat, like all the time. And I was like, at first I thought it was weird, but then I kind of got that it was like them feeling out if I was like normal or not. Okay. And the same thing with like dating apps. Like their first thing is like, I'd get their number, and then they'd go, what's your Snapchat? All right. And I absolutely hate communicating over Snapchat, but I was like, I guess this is something I have to do. And it's something I've had to do with a lot of the people I've dated.
Well, I'll say, I think you have very much acclimated, because the first time we met, you asked for my Snap instead of my Instagram or number. And I was like, oh God, this man's going to ask for nudes, which is the go-to for like why girls are so hesitant, because it is, you don't want to give out your number to a random guy or like your socials, because they'll always have that. Snap, it's easy to just kind of delete them. But I think as a girl, like when a guy asks for my Snapchat, whether, it is platonic or relationship, it's like, he's going to send me something weird at 4 a.m. and I'm going to regret this.
For clarity, I did not send anything weird at 4 a.m.
He's never sent anything weird at 4 a.m. It's definitely more at noon.
I don't remember doing that, so I'd like to apologize for past Peter, because I don't like that.
No, I think it is just a thing that people do out here also culturally, that I think guys and girls ask for each other's snaps a lot more, but definitely in DC, it was much more of a red flag.
Okay. Let's see. Another one. When the first question they ask is, what ski pass do you have?
Green.
That's a green flag to me.
They said it was a red flag, but
Really?
If that's like your only personality trait, it becomes a red flag really quickly.
well, I think it's more of, does it really matter? So you're not going to date someone if they don't have the same ski pass as you. That's probably a red flag.
I agree, but I think it's you talk, and it's actually weird. Like, I feel like I get asked that a lot on dating apps because I have skiing as one of my big, like, hobbies noted. And I think that guys have this idea that you're going to fall in love and go skiing together. And I will say, I've been on one ski date, and I will never sit in a car that long with a man I don't know ever again. So,
yeah, that might be a bold first date. I don't think I would ever do that for the first date, but I did at different points have, I have Icon Pass in my bio for something, just to like let people know, because in my mind it was like, oh, like, do we have the same pass? Can we go skiing? Like, let's say we go on a date and it goes, well, can I go skiing with you? Because that's something I'm going to be wanting to be doing with all of my free time.
Yeah, it's a good point. Down the road, can I actually hit the slopes with them if I like them?
Because I don't know if I'm going to be willing to pay $150 to go to a different passes like resort for a date and then it just not work out. That's expensive.
All right, so here's another one. Someone who hasn't seen and didn't like Star Wars. That one's just out of left field.
I love that.
It's a red flag if they haven't seen it and they don't like it.
Yes, both. Double win.
You should be able to give your you should be able to say I haven't seen it and that's fine, but like you can't dislike something if you haven't seen it. Like that's what other things are you just gonna assume you don't like?
I wouldn't say it's a red flag for me, but I think it would be very hard to bond with me if you hadn't seen Star Wars. Like earlier today, I did an imitation of the "you don't want to sell me death sticks, you want to go home and rethink your life" to a guy, and it went so over his head, and I was like, ooh, never mind. Guess this isn't gonna work.
That's understandable.
Yeah, and I also have the Mandalorian soaps, and my chopsticks are shaped like lightsabers, and they light up, so here's a theme. Did I send that in? Okay.
And the next one. They're great at communication about desires in life and dating and makes time for you.
It sounds like a green flag.
It's a green flag.
Yeah. It sounds like a very well-adjusted adult.
Yeah. Honestly, he is a pretty well-adjusted adult.
I was waiting for like a but or a however of like, but they do this.
Yeah, I'd say, communication is a great way to have a successful relationship. All right, and then the next one. Only do things on their terms, or everything you do talk about revolves around them.
That is a red flag of a narcissist.
Oh, what's the definition of a narcissist? I'll put it up on the screen here.
Here's the definition.
If you're watching. If not, the audio version, we don't really know.
It's someone who lacks empathy and they're only thinking about themselves, and it goes beyond that, like, oh, I'm going to protect myself and put myself first, and becomes that at the risk of other people, I'm going to put myself first, and that is not what you want in a partner.
All right, and the next one.
All right.
I was going to say, she's more qualified to answer that than any of us.
Jeff doesn't care.
They only want an open relationship.
I mean, if that's what you want, that's fine. But I think it goes back to that communication. Like, if you don't want that and they say they do, you have to be willing to be like, I know myself well enough to know that that's not going to make me happy. I'm not putting myself in that situation.
Yeah, it's a green flag if it's communicated immediately. It's a red flag if it comes up later.
Yeah, it's just hard to do in general. I feel like, especially if you're not mentally ready for that, it can be tough on a lot of people.
I mean, one person's exhausting, so.
Yeah, I don't have the attention span to focus on more than one person.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
I do have a friend who does do that though, and him and his girlfriend are in an open relationship, and they make it work very well, and they're very clear in the way they communicate it, and they have set boundaries. And so, if that's your thing, go for it.
Exactly.
I can't do that.
All right, let's go with the last red or green flag we'll do. I'll go ahead and tell you it's a red flag for this guy, and he said is if they don't tell you they have a kid until you see the kid. Yeah. It's probably not the best thing to not tell someone you have a kid before you introduce them to the kid. It's like, surprise.
It's kind of a massive red flag, because I imagine if you have a kid, that's a huge part of your life. And so how do you not tell the person you're trying to get to know massive parts of your life?
Do you think that's something that you would want to say before even meeting, or do you think a first date's fine without saying you have a kid first?
I think that's fine on a first date, depending on how you meet, kind of thing.
And I think you can kind of tell whether, like, if you're talking to someone either in person or on a dating app, if that's something they're a little more open to or not. And I think, we are at that age where some of us are dating people who do have kids, but being upfront about it, like Pete said, like, that's probably a big part of your life. And if you're going to hide that for a while, like, you probably are hiding other things. So,
For sure. All right, let's go into our next segment. We might as well talk about dating apps. You know, it's the hot way to date today. It's pretty much how young people meet these days. What are your thoughts on dating apps, and what are your favorites, pros and cons of each?
You want to start?
Yeah, you take it away.
I personally hate dating apps. To start, I have downloaded them countless times and deleted them countless times throughout my career in dating. First started with them in college off and on and stuff like that. And then just periodically through my life, I've picked up each of the main three, which is Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, and had to go at them. But I myself am I'm a very in-person person, and trying to get to know someone over the internet and stuff like that, it just does not work well for me. And so I've never very much enjoyed the experience, but yeah,
it's difficult, and you just kind of feel like it's too much because there's so much, and it's just endless swiping, and there's too much selection these days. I feel like, and I've done the whole delete it, re-download, delete, re-download. I think we all have the endless cycle. What about you, Sophie?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the exact same way. I feel like I was a serial monogamist for most of my life, so relationship to relationship. So I'd never really been on the apps until like a year and a half ago. And I mean, like, I'll be honest, as a girl, it is lovely for my ego. Pete saw mine the other day where I've got like 540 likes just sitting there. And he was like, it's not hard for a girl. And I was like, shut up, I need this. But I think for the ego, lovely, but I am the exact same way where I'm an energy person and I can't really get that sense over an app. So I'll talk to someone, I'll be really excited about them, and I'll meet them in person and nothing's wrong. Like, they're attractive, they're kind, they're passionate, but they're just not right for me. And I think that can be super exhausting where you get those hopes up and then they're kind of dashed where when you meet them in person. And I will say, though, I really do like Hinge's voice prompts because I'm a big voice person. Like, that is one of my icks. I know we're talking about that later. But
I haven't been on the dating apps with the voice prompts recently.
I deleted it right before it came out, and that would have been right up my alley because I would have had so much fun with it.
I feel old. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. So it's just responding to it so you can hear the other person's voice. And I feel like you get such a better idea of who someone is, even if it's just like a 20-second like clip of them talking about themselves. It's like, oh, he's got a nice voice. He's got a cool energy. And the people I've felt that about and then got on a date with, it's been so much better than when I've listened to the voice prompt and been like, ooh, no. So.
Yeah, I've sat on TikTok and I'm in a feed of people just finding the funniest ones that they've found. And my favorite one that people have done, they'll still have the Hinge prompt where it's like, tell us something about you. And the guy goes, my favorite one, this guy goes, here's some mood music for you enjoying my profile. And he played Careless Whisper by George Michael as he scrolled. Yes. And I was just like, that is incredible. Okay. And I'm so sad I missed out on that.
I feel like also on dating apps versus meeting in person, it's easier to you can find so much information on them on the internet versus their profile pictures, Facebook, and you can kind of build up this persona in your head, I feel like, a little easier than just when you meet someone in person. And a lot of times that can't really be met. Yeah. That's just what I kind of think when it comes to dating apps versus in person. Yeah. Do you have a specific way that you like to meet people in person? How do you even do it these days?
Yeah. I mean, I like meeting people through shared experiences. So at the climbing gym, going skiing, on hikes, things like that, bookstores, concerts. And I will say, I think I have a bit of an easier time because I am very extroverted. So if I think somebody's attractive, I'll go talk to them. And, that's the way I like to meet people. But especially with COVID, like, that's pretty hard. And you also, I think the benefit of dating apps is what both of you are kind of looking for. Like, you're both looking for a connection. And if you just see somebody in like a coffee shop and you go talk to them, you don't know if they're in a relationship. You don't know if they've had a bad day and they don't want to be bothered. And so, I think it is a little harder, but I do think it is easier to connect with someone you've met in person.
It's really good to have the skill where you can just walk up to anybody.
Okay,
It's
I
a
think you
special
have
talent.
that too, but
Oh, I haven't had to date over the pandemic or anything. So.
In a group full of extroverts, that's not a very hard thing to do. But like there are those introverted people where it's not an easy thing to do. And I have a few friends, especially at the gym that I go to, where the women at my gym have a very hard time of approaching guys, and because they'll say like, "Oh, I think this guy's very cute," and me and my friends are like, "Go say something, go do something," and they are terrified of doing it. And I have to explain my favorite thing to say to them is like, if you don't ask, the answer is no. And even if they say no, you're still at the same square where you started. So like, what is there to lose? And so like helping my friends like overcome that is very interesting. But yeah, it's probably a little easier for introverts to be on a dating app than trying to do that kind of stuff in person.
Like my girlfriend. we love dating apps because it actually worked out for us.
Yeah.
Y'all met on Bumble, right?
Yeah, we met on the wonderful yellow app called Bumble.
We love it. Can we talk to Mason?
Yeah, I'll bring Mason out. She's over in the next room. We'll bring Mason on here real quick to discuss how we met in Denver.
Awesome.
But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Fall in love with Old Town Arvada this Valentine's Day season. With over 50 restaurants, bars, and retail options located just northwest of Denver and off the G line, Old Town Arvada is perfect place to bring your Valentine.
All right, we just dragged Mason into the room so we can get to the bottom of how these two met and how they were able to get over the hump of dating app relationships. So how did you guys meet on Bumble? And Mason, how did you start it out? Because Bumble is the one where the girls have to go first.
Yes, it is. Hello. This is my voice. Yes, we met on Bumble. I originally got on to the BFF to make friends because I had moved to Denver like 2 weeks before and I didn't know anybody. And no one wanted to meet up with me on the BFF.
I had the same problem with Bumble BFF.
Wow.
I don't know why. Maybe it's just a little weirder. I'm not sure. So I eventually switched to the regular like dating one. Sorry. And wasn't looking to date, but more just like I feel like guys would be more chill to like reach out to hang out. And so I was on that, and then I came across Jeff's profile and it said something in the bio like new to Denver looking for friends. And I was like, perfect, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I was not looking for a boyfriend.
Did you think he was cute though?
I did. I did.
Okay.
My sister can attest. I took a photo of his profile and I sent it to her, and she was like, oh my gosh, if you don't go on a date with him, I'm going to be very mad. I did.
So it wasn't a date.
Well, yeah, technically it wasn't a date, but we did meet up the next day.
What did you say to him first? How did that start?
I said, looking at the actual text, I also just moved here and I'm looking for friends with the laughy cry awkward face emoji.
There are a lot of those on that text chain.
we talked a lot for we literally met up the next day after matching, and we talked like the whole night. We were both binge watching the Netflix show You at the time, and so I might have threatened as a joke to murder her.
That's what got me.
But she said yes anyways.
Guys,
So-
you heard it here first.
So
That's
you
how
can
get a
use some
woman.
weird lines on these apps, and people will say yes. So just go for it.
Yep, haven't been murdered yet, so I'm feeling pretty confident in my decision to meet up with you.
Yeah. And then we
Was
were
this
just
as a
friends
date,
for about.
or was this a meetup as friends?
It was a meetup as friends.
Well, I didn't personally. I
yeah.
wasn't all okay, we're just friends. I'd be like, well, I can see where it goes. But the second we sat down, she goes, so friends, right? I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
So it was a meetup as friends.
Immediately friend zone, but that's fine.
Yeah,
Wait, you got out of that pretty quickly, right? The friend zone?
It took about a month and a half, month-ish.
Not that long.
No.
Free.
Yeah,
You're fine.
Yeah.
we still didn't know any other people and only hung out with each other. So we spent a lot of time hanging out, just the two of us. So it feels kind of quick, but also not, because we hung out a lot for a long time. We just met up and got drinks on Tennyson Street, where I used to live, but we didn't order drinks.
We just talked for 3 hours. We forgot to order.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
What
it's
did you
cute.
talk about?
I remember very distinctly talking about music for some reason. But typical
The
first
backgrounds,
trying to get to
yeah.
know people.
Sometimes the gab's good and it just kind of flows, like this podcast, for example.
Yeah.
The gap is good.
Yeah, well, it seems like you guys met up as friends, and that kind of took a lot of pressure out of the situation, and so you were
It
able
did.
to, like,
Well, it eventually got to the point where.
So how? Yeah, we should get to that then. How did you guys ask each other out? Who asked who out? And how did you get over being friends? How did you turn that?
We were at the bar called Lodo's that is now torn down in downtown Denver. Unfortunately, that was one of our favorite spots. So we were out at night, and then because I had gone on a couple Hinge dates during this time of us just being friends.
Were you getting her opinion on the dates? Did she know about them?
She knew about them.
Oh, yeah, I knew about
And,
this.
like she'd be swiping on Hinge when we were hanging out and stuff. and, friends,
We
you know?
were dating, and he was my first and only dating app date I ever went on.
She's a one and done. Impressive.
Yeah.
Goddess,
So
truly.
it was kind of fun, like talking about Hinge dates and like swiping and stuff because I'd never done it. I only met up with him, and then I deleted it, Bumble, because I was like, well, I made a friend, and like that was the whole point.
And you only need one.
Yeah. So I kind of
So then basically I just, I don't know if I should say forced it, but
No.
we were at Lodo's
You're just
one
blunt.
night, and then I was just like, would you be mad if I started dating someone? I was a little intoxicated, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
it was
but
a late
little
night
liquid
at
But
a
it was to the
bar.
point where we hung out so much, and like we basically went on dates as friends. I was like, "Would you be mad?" Like,
Yeah, like
'cause
that day.
I would date her, obviously, and then she was the one that was like emphasized the friends, and I knew, just we both moved into Denver, and we weren't really looking for anything. It just kind of like morphed.
Yeah, literally that day we spent the whole afternoon in Breckenridge, and then we went out to Lodo's that night. So it kind of felt like we were dating, but we were just friends. So
What was your response to
Yeah.
Jeff's question?
I think I said, "Can we go home?" Because like I was like, I'm not sure I can have this serious of a conversation like at a
It
bar
was at a
right
bar,
now with
yeah.
like
But-
music
and like when bars were busy before COVID.
Yeah, this was in January
So
of
the conversation
2020.
extended and came back home. You guys
Yeah,
had
so
that day.
he came to my apartment, and then
And then we kissed.
we
Yes.
kissed. We were just talking about this last night.
High five.
Gotta give props when props are due.
We were both new, and it worked.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't give any advice.
Well, as
Because-
someone who has spent time in the trenches of online dating, you saying that you went on one date, got into a relationship that is currently still going strong, just pains me on the inside because I've gone on so many and been on many apps and swiped many people and have not
And
had that
spent
situation.
a lot of money too.
Yes.
I
Yes.
am so sorry. I don't know. I don't know if I'm just picky or I just have. I don't know what it is. It just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of luck was involved. Something that did come to mind is something I've heard before from people is online dating when you get to know someone that you know from scratch, like you don't know anything about them, is there's a lot of pressure. And so like you're immediately getting to know each other like you're gonna
Yay.
So good.
All right. Thank you to Mason for hopping on real quick. We'll give the mic back to Sophie and continue this podcast. Let's get into the worst icebreakers you've heard of, worst first liners. Like, what do you hate to get in a dating app as just a first message?
I hate everything about starting a conversation on dating apps, to be honest, because I've been through so many talking stages and I've hit a point where it's just there's some things I just don't care to like learn these things, especially over like the dating app, where like because there's so many times where I've had a conversation and then it just dies and that's it, and I'll never think or see about this person again, and it's like I put in that time for nothing.
Yeah.
And so not to veer off from what this segment is but for me, when I'm on dating apps, or when I was on dating apps, my thing was within 5 or 6 messages, I would ask them on a date and be like, I want to see you on a date. And then I don't want to learn anything more from you. I don't want to care. And it's not to be mean. It's just because it makes the date easier, because I know absolutely nothing about you and I can ask about anything. And so like, that's what it is. As far as horrible things that I get when I was on Bumble or other things and girls start the conversation first, I absolutely hate when they just go, hey. Yeah, and then I get what's up. They just immediately shove the conversation back into my lap. And it's just so hard, because then I have to immediately be the interesting one without any effort from their side.
Yeah. That's it. That's the one I hate the most. Is just, hey, what's up?
Yeah. No, I think like whoever starts it, you don't have to put a lot of time into it. I think sometimes my guy friends will come to me and be like, what do I do? What do I start this with a girl? And it's like, you don't need to think about it too much, but mention something on her profile. Like if you've swiped on it and it's interested you, there's probably something. And that could be like, oh, that looks like a great ski trip, or like, anything like that.
People usually give good descriptions on there.
Yeah, like it doesn't need to be something overly like, I've just written the best thing on earth. It's just like, oh, I'm showing I'm actually interested in you, and I'm not, what's it called? Where they just are swiping. Speed swiping, something like that, where it's just like they're swiping right on
Trying
everyone.
to get a hookup.
Exactly. So just something that shows like, assuming they like your face, but that they also looked at your profile and have something other to say about it.
So you're saying to show genuine interest in what you put out there.
But crazy. I also agree. That is one of, like, just what y'all are saying. I think for guys and girls, the best advice is you ask them on that date and then you don't continue talking. Because I think so many, I think girls are better at this, but I think so many of my guy friends will want to keep the conversation going before a date. And you don't know each other yet. You have nothing to talk about yet. And until, the reason relationships and people get along is because they have shared things to talk about. And y'all don't have that yet. So let it lie and then do it on the date.
That's good advice. That brings us into, you're also a dating coach?
Yeah, so for the last 2 years, I worked with Relationship Hero, an online dating counseling. And so I worked with couples and singles, people who were going through breakups, people who were trying to date, and relationships where, they were dealing with the pandemic. And so now I have put that on hold because I've gone back to grad school for my master's. But I loved being a relationship coach. It was very fun.
And for being a relationship coach, what would you say would be the top 3 issues you saw that made dating fail?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I would see is that these people genuinely really wanted relationships. And it was like taking a step back and encouraging all of my clients, you have to bring something to the table. And that's not from a egotistical point. It's like you have to have your own interests and hobbies. Your partner can't be the hobby. Because I'd see so many people where they made dating their hobby, or they made the person they were dating their hobby. And it was like, you're going to have nothing to talk about if you're only going on dates, and you're going to exhaust yourself so that you're not energetic when the right person comes along. And passion is the sexiest thing on earth. And that investing in yourself, investing in something you're excited about, so then you can share that with another person, that was my biggest thing that I saw. And so I can think of others, but that's the biggest thing.
I saw that a lot, especially during the last 2 years, just with all my friends, and even with Mason and I, when you're with someone all the time and just trapped in the same room because of the world, then it can get difficult at times, and you're doing the same things, and it's like you need other things to have things to talk about and different hobbies. Your relationship can't be your entire life.
Yeah.
That would be a red flag right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Is not having those interests.
And I think, I think before the pandemic, I was very good about that. I had my soccer league and climbing and dance classes and just all this stuff I was excited about. But I won't lie, when the pandemic started, my ex and I were living together, and suddenly all of our hobbies were gone, and it was just us in a room, and we weren't prepared for that. We had made our focus being in a relationship with each other, and that's why it didn't work out.
Yeah, that's very applicable to Colorado in general, because we're in an area that we're so blessed to be in with the mountains and all these opportunities to do things outside, is that there's not a whole lot of excuses to not have a hobby out here and find, especially like outdoors. And a lot of the people who are probably listening to this are more outdoor focused and stuff like that. And so like, if the only thing you're bringing is like, I'm good in a relationship, like, what are you passionate about? What are you interested in? Like these are the things that make your first dates easier to go on and have a conversation about when you can talk about these things. Like right out of college, I remember the question that I hated getting asked was, because I'd let a lot of my hobbies kind of go to the wayside when I was in college because I was so focused on school and probably drinking, to be honest, was that like somebody would be like, what do you like to do for fun? And I would just be like, well, I like good music, and I like hanging out with my friends, and then going out with my friends and drinking with my friends and drinking. And then I would sit there and I was like, I hate this question because I sound so boring, but I'm not a boring person. And then one day it kind of clicked. I was like, well, it's like, Peter, you haven't done any of your hobbies in a long time. And so I got back to playing guitar. I got back into rock climbing. I got back into skiing. I got more into like more outdoor stuff that I had loved before that. And like that made me a more interesting person. And granted, at that time I wasn't dating, but when I found those interests, I found myself becoming more and more happy. And I was putting out there that I was really happy with myself and happy with all the things I was doing. And I never got more attention than from girls and ladies and women and the folk than when I was my happiest self doing all these things, because I'd been putting it out there and people saw that I was happy, and they're like, oh, I want to be a part of this happiness. He seems like he knows what he's doing. And it was a very interesting revelation that happened for me, and I shared it with one of my friends, and she said the same thing because she'd been focusing on herself. And she said, I'd never been getting more DMs, and now when I am currently doing my favorite, I'm living my best life. And I was like, that is a very interesting revelation, and something that was just a kind of like, it was just like the light bulb moment in my brain when that had happened.
Yeah. It's hot when someone has a good energy. You know, something that you want to be a part of and come along with. It's fun.
It's cool to be passionate about something, and I love seeing someone who is like super passionate about what they're doing, because it's just fun to watch them like light up and be really excited, like Jeff is with Mountain Kids, like
my
that kind of stuff.
Psychotic Mountain Kids obsession.
Well, I think it's true, and like it doesn't have to be the same hobbies either. Like one of the best dates I have been on since I got to Denver was this guy, and I'm going to butcher this explanation, but he had this aquarium, and he was using the aquarium, and it was hydroponics to grow plants for this kitchen, because he's a chef and he works at a restaurant downtown, and like to grow all the herbs, he was like growing them with it growing out of a fish aquarium. I've butchered this, but even though it's not an interest of mine at all, like watching him light up, thinking about like, this is what I'm doing, this is this thing I'm so excited about, it was one of the best dates I've been on since I've lived here. So
that's cool. And those are things that you can feature in your dating profile that make you interesting. If they're just pictures of you or you and a friend or you and your friends just like in the photos, that doesn't tell anything about you. But if you are doing something, like you can have like your centered photos so you can show who you are. But then having photos of you doing your interests, your hobbies, the things that you think cool, and being able to show off that personality really attracts people to you, because then it's also easier to start a conversation when you're like, oh, you like to go like trout fishing. That's a beautiful scenery. I would love to learn, which I would love to learn next summer at some point myself. But like things like that, like, oh, I like to go skiing. Is like same, like how, like what kind of skiing do you like to do? Like just things like that are easy conversation starters, and you can do that to start your conversation on those apps.
No, I always tell girlfriends to pick one of the most random things they love and feature that. Because like for me, I have that, I'm a huge fan of the Marble Olympics. I don't know if y'all know what this is. It's a YouTube channel where they do the Olympics but with marbles, and I never get more responses than to that prompt. And people are like, what is it? And I'm like, let me show you my gear for
There
this.
we go.
I would be so interested. It'd be like Marble Olympics. I'm in. Can I bet money? How do I bet on this?
Exactly.
True. I always got so interested on random, just like out of left field descriptions and like interests that people would say they had.
I love it.
So next we're going to be talking about horror stories of dating. I will try to brainstorm some quick, but Sophie has told me a few, and they are the most entertaining stories I've ever heard. We could probably start off with the most attention-grabbing one. I'll let you introduce this hot guy that also happened to be.
Unfortunately, we decided to cut out this horror story for the sake of the parties involved. Thought it was for the best, so we'll move on to the next one.
A more PG story I can actually tell was this guy, Michael, who I went on a date with when I first got to DC. And it was right when me and my ex had broken up. And we're at the restaurant, and my phone keeps ringing and buzzing. And he's like, do you need to get that? And I was like, I'm sorry, like getting very flustered. Like, it's my ex. He's calling. We haven't spoken since the breakup. I'm so sorry. And this man reached across the table, took my hand, and very quietly started singing. And
What
we're
song
in
was he
public.
singing?
There's nothing I hate more than being sung to in public. And I was like, oh, this is a nice song. Did you write it? And he
No.
was like, no, it's The Climb by Miley
Oh, no.
Cyrus. And I was like, why would you sing that to me? And he was like, you're from Tennessee. I thought you'd like it. And so this sweet boy had used the one thing he knew about me to try to make this girl he's on a date with stop crying in this Mexican restaurant. And so,
What a
yeah.
legend.
We didn't work out, but he still likes all my Instagrams, so.
I applaud the confidence that takes to just start singing
Miley
a
Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus song.
Yeah.
It's the clown.
I thought it was gonna be like was a Kiss from a Rose by like Seal, and I was like, okay,
Or just
but
like
no, it's just
Rick
Miley
roll.
Cyrus.
Just Miley Cyrus. It did not make me feel better, but it was very cringy, and I very much appreciated his effort.
Okay. Pete, do you have any good stories?
I'm sorry,
I
Jeff.
don't think I have any horror stories. Maybe it's just the kind of person that I haven't had anything horribly in.
I'd say that, yeah, I haven't really either. Just, oh man. I guess that leads us into the last segment is the ick.
The egg.
You know, we've all gotten the ick. It's hard to explain what it is, but, you know, it's just like the moment you're like, no, it's not it. And I haven't really had any horror stories, but, you know, I've had the ick a couple times.
What's an ick for you, Jeff?
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to explain. It's a feeling, but I'd say like one of the like actual icks that I look out for is when I introduce someone to people and then they're like interacting with them and I just go, ooh,
Yeah.
I'm kind of, I don't know, embarrassed if it's the right word, but I'm like, yeah, I don't want you hanging around my friends or something like that. You know,
If it's a friend that you have to give a warning to other people.
Oh,
yeah, be prepared. Or she does
yeah.
this sometimes.
Sophie, what's an ick for you? Or if you have a couple, just fire away.
I mean, for me, I don't know if this is necessarily an ick, but something I've been noticing I don't like lately is when people show up without like warning, even if it is for a nice reason. Like a few weeks ago, this guy brought me flowers, but I opened the door and I was like in a towel and I had a spoon in one hand and frosting in the other. And I was like, this isn't when you show up.
He brought you flowers. How long have you been seeing him for?
We've been seeing each other on and off for a couple of months, but he doesn't live here. So when he's in town, we hang out. He might be like moving here long term in the next couple of months,
Ooh.
but
Nice.
he's no.
So it wasn't a too soon. I gave you flowers. I see I'm going for
No,
Too
it
soon
wasn't.
to see you eating frosting in a towel.
Exactly. I whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member or a partner, like I need 2 to 4 hours to know you're coming over. Like I live alone for a reason and I like my space. Yeah, exactly. Even if it's for a nice reason, don't show up at my house without telling me you're going to.
Yeah, especially if they live with you. Like 2 hours notice minimum.
Exactly.
That might be a little hard.
That's what Mason and I do
Yeah.
every time. Like,
What is
Yeah, I'm coming home.
You
On
gotta
that
take a
track-
couple more laps. You didn't give me enough time.
On that track? When is like an appropriate amount of time for if let's say you've gone on a Hinge date or a couple dates with them or whatever? When is the appropriate time for a guy to give a girl flowers? Is what's too early and like what would push you away or versus like what's good timing on that?
I don't know. I think it's more about the person. Like I've had guys show up with flowers on first dates and be like, "Oh, that's kind of cute." But after the first, it's kind of like, "Let's wait until we've decided we like each other." Like I don't know. I think about month and a half, if you've been hanging out, like it's a nice little gift. But yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. I feel like it's just preference too.
Exactly.
I feel like it's a nice gesture, but
It's
don't
also
overdo
appropriate to
anything.
give men flowers. I would love flowers myself.
Oh yeah.
I've never gotten flowers. If any of you want to send me flowers, I would be so happy. Or a plant. I have plants and I love them.
Can I put your address on them?
Yeah, I'll throw my address up. I should just get a PO box.
Edible arrangements work too.
We love that.
That's a lot of pressure. I can't eat all that food.
That's too much. You draw the line at edible arrangements.
Yeah.
I've gotten guys flowers before and they melt. So I think
Exactly.
that's a very, guys are not used to getting compliments. They're not used to getting gifts. And I think with, don't be over the top with it, but if you can give them like a really good, genuine compliment, like you handled, if something hard happens, like I'm really impressed with the way you handled that and being genuine. I think that's a really good tip for dating because it shows you're paying attention. And it's not just like, oh, you're cute or funny. It's, I like the way you respond to the world around you. Like, what's hotter than that?
Yeah. All right. Do you have any other big icks that just immediately come to mind? You're on a date with someone, they do something.
I mean,
And you're like,
rude
I'm out.
to the wait staff. Like, I
Big.
don't allow that.
As someone who's worked in the service industry, I can tell you there's nothing that makes me more angry and like immediately like I don't want to be on this date anymore if they're being mean to the waitstaff. I'm lactose intolerant, and the amount of times I'll order a burger and they'll just accidentally put cheese on it still because I'll be like, hey, I can't get cheese in this, and I am so apologetic about it. I'm like, I don't want to send this back, but I literally can't eat it. Please, and then I go, I'm so sorry. Like, please, like here, I'm sorry that you got my order wrong. Can you please like just get the cheese off? Like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I'll just eat it usually. I'm just like, I don't want to cause an issue. It's fine.
You're better
I'll deal with this
than me.
later.
You're a better man than me.
What about you, Pete? You got any?
Well, yeah, but yeah, a big one for me is because like the first time I get to know someone is usually is drinks is being mean to the wait staff and stuff like that. Not being interested in me and the other person, because I've been on many dates where I've sat there and asked question after question, and I've made them open ended where I can be like, hey, what do you think about this? And then I know they can ask me the question back, and they just keep going on. And I sit there as like, all right, I'll keep this conversation going because I have too much anxiety to let this silence befall both of us. But I'm not going to ask you on a second date. Like, I'm going to be out of here. Like, I'm going to exit this date as fast as I possibly can.
That is a great one. It's happened to me, and it's when they just don't reciprocate the conversation. It is a long date.
There's tough. There's a few tough ones I've sat there like that, and it's just like, why am I here? Where did this go wrong?
All right, we're approaching an hour here, so let's go ahead and final quick question. On a first date, who pays? Do they both pay? Does the guy pay?
The guy pays. If you're a woman and you're sitting there, make like a half-hearted effort. I love to see you be like, oh no, I can pay, and I can be like, no, I got it. Like, don't worry. But like, I don't. It's kind of like I don't like to see you just like look at it and just
Like you're getting this.
getting
right?
this right. No, just like make an effort, but like don't actually pay for it. And if you're a guy and they make an effort, don't accept it. Pay for it. It's one of the things that is left over from the patriarchy that we got to deal with. But it's just how things are.
What if they didn't
Pay
ask
for
you a
it.
single question the whole time?
Even then,
We're split.
Even then, I will begrudgingly pay for this meal and be like,
Same.
I asked you the questions and I paid for the food.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to you again.
But a red flag is if they don't even make like a slightest like, oh, I'll pay.
It's a red flag overlook. It's just kind of nice to be
Yeah.
like make that gesture.
From a guy's perspective, what about you, Sophie?
I agree completely. I think at the end of the date, like you both kind of offer. I do think 9 out of 10 times, like usually the guy will be like, no, I've got it, that I've experienced. But like if we go someplace really nice and it's a first date or it's an activity, like I'm totally fine doing my own, like buying it for myself. So I'd say split or the guy, or unless like once or twice, like I've really wanted to do something and I've asked the guy and been like, it'll be my treat and like you'll get next time. Like saying something like that where it's like shows them like I had a really good time and I liked this enough that I'll pay for this one. You just got to come up with the next thing. So yeah, I think that
Okay.
what Pete said, definitely right.
Have you ever paid?
Yes, like twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's good. All right, so we're in Denver and we're dating around. What is your rules, or what is your go-to for a first date in Denver?
Oh, let's see. Sorry, this is taking me a moment.
That's a good one.
It is.
People are listening like, ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, I
What-
want to
what
know.
now?
I can start and kick off
Peter.
dating. This is something I like to share, and I feel very passionate about. But I'd said previously, especially when it comes to dating apps and dating people you don't know, is that when I start messaging someone, I'll usually be like, hey, like, you're really cool, like, we should meet up, like, maybe say something funny here and there, and then I usually go with, hey, we should grab drinks. I'll pick as like, does this day work for you? And if they say yes, or they'll suggest like another day, they'll be like, all right, cool, I can, I'll meet you at 7. And so my rule of first dates, especially on dating apps, is drinks, not dinner. And so the way that works out, and there's a few things that go into this, is first off is you pick a public place, you pick a bar that you can go to. And this is just, I want to make sure that the person I'm on a date with is comfortable. It's a public place. So that way, like, I'm not, hey, do you want to go on a hike that's 2 miles into the mountains? That might be kind of scary for some people and whatnot. And so I always say drinks, not dinner. Go to a bar, it's public, because that way, like, if they want, they can have their friends go creep in the background, because you don't know who their friends are. With that, then it comes into a few things. When you're on a date with someone, especially a first date, and someone that you don't know, it's hard to eat food in front of someone. You're going to try and eat a burger in front of someone and keep a conversation going. You will have awkward pauses in your date if you're trying to eat, because otherwise you're leaning forward and you're doing the look up and like scooping things in your mouth, like trying to be like interactive and attentive of what they're saying, and like being still like very cognizant of like that you're there. And so that's hard. And so with that, then you can have drinks, you can sit there. Also, you're drinking things. And so sorry if you do not drink, this does not really apply to you, but you can go to a coffee shop, same concept, as you're loosening up. You're having a couple drinks, you're loosening up, you're getting a little more comfortable and relaxed and stuff like that. And so it just kind of makes things a lot easier. And with that comes, there's an expiration date on drinks. If you're not having a good date, if you're asking all the questions, you can have 2 drinks. Waiter or waitress can come by and say, hey, how are you guys doing? Be like, yeah, I can grab the check. And you can exit real quick. And you can get out of there, and you can make that date 20 to 40 minutes if you want. And like, that's all you need. Now, if it's going well, you can extend this date. And you can have more drinks. You're going to loosen up more. That's great. And then you can order appetizers, something to share, something to snack on. It's very easy. So like nachos, mozz sticks, stuff like that. It's super easy. And then you can like pick at it as you talk, and you're not shoving food into your mouth. And you can go forever. And like, I've gone on many dates where I've been like, all right, let's get drinks. And we'll end up ordering like a decent amount of appetizers by the end of it. And we've sat there for 3 hours. And that's what makes it like a great way to just meet someone. It's very low pressure and stuff like that. Cause like, if you're going on a hike with someone, you're like, all right, is this person good at hiking? Like, or if I'm going skiing with someone, like, are they good at skiing? And like, am I have a good day? Like, you could just end up in a day where you're teaching someone how to ski, and that's probably not the best. And so like, that's usually my go-to for dates. And it's worked out pretty well for me so far in that regard.
I can tell you thought about this. You've got it down to a science.
I've been on a lot of dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I would add is that in Denver specifically, like, so many of our bars have stuff other than just drinking. And so if you are going to extend it, you know, like there's axe throwing, or there's pool, or like AC Eat Serve has ping pong, or like One Up. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Punch Bowl Social has bowling.
Exactly.
Easy.
Like I always try to pick something where it's drinks, but you know, with food, it's in your mouth, it's hard to talk, but having that activity. So let's say, you know, you get there and you can tell like you like them, but they're a little shy, they're a little uncomfortable. Like, what's more fun than playing like pool while you get to know somebody, and like having something to do with your hands that loosens you up, and you know, you still get to stop that.
Men are simple beings. If you give us something to do while you're talking to us, you will have a much better conversation if you just put something in front of us. I don't know what it
They're
is.
like babies.
Give us an activity.
Yeah, we're children, and it's very funny. Like
Yeah.
you go do that, go mini golfing. Like, I'm gonna be focused on mini golfing, and you could just grill questions out of me, and you're gonna get answers that like I'm not paying attention to, and like you'll learn a lot.
Down the mat.
Yeah, but yeah,
Exactly.
I'm a big fan of that, and I think that's great for a second date, especially, is where you still like you still might have some awkward pauses in there. So if you go do an activity together, like it's a great way to get to know each other and stuff like that. And then eventually, and then you can go do dinner on date 3, or you can do that for date 2 and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we were at the Zoo Lights the other day. I thought that'd be a good
Ooh, yeah,
early
just like a
date
simple
as well.
walk. Like, yeah,
but it's pretty and lots to look at. And
Yeah.
low
Mhm.
stress.
Love the zoo lights.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks for being on today, guys. That was a fun hour of just talking about dating in Denver. Good topic. I'm sure we'll do a lot more segments on this dating in Denver arena. There's a lot to talk about, a lot of guests to be had, a lot of stories. Thanks for coming on, and I'm sure we will go on some excursions here soon, and maybe go on a double date or something. I don't know.
Mountain Kids dating. We're gonna do
Mountain
it.
Kids
Speed dating.
Mountain Kids Prom could be coming up.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm trying to call out Bumble on TikTok and then be like, yo, sponsor this. My girlfriend and I met on Bumble. We're believers. Everyone that comes to this prom would have to bring a Bumble date.
Oh,
And
I like that.
I love
that'd
this.
be the caveat. And then I'd be, okay, yeah.
We
I
could do
think
it.
it's a good
I'm
idea.
in.
And I'd be
I'll,
like, don't make me reach out to Hinge, and for the love of God, don't make me reach out to Tinder. And then they can get in the comments and be like,
I'll host and start conversations. I'll just let everyone else do it.
yeah, perfect.
Love it.
All right, thanks for coming on, guys.
Hey,
and,
thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you,
See you
Jeff.
soon.
Bye.